talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? Chat with the ladies about their day, the ups and downs along the way. She's a cook, she's a chauffeur, she's a worker bee. First in the door and last to leave. Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk?
Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Regina Ayars, and my co-host is Carol Voisin. Girl Talk is a lively discussion of the opportunities, challenges, and successes of women in their daily lives. We interview women living in the Rogue Valley who are making a difference in our communities. Today, our topic is female firefighters. Several months ago, I read an article about a fire camp for girls. I investigated and tracked down the woman who had coordinated the event. She is with us today along with another instructor and firefighter to discuss what it's like being a female firefighter. In the second episode, we will get to hear from a couple of girls who actually attended the camp. Our guests today are Captain Talise Roloffs of the Applegate Fire District and Captain Aaron Elder, Shady Cove Fire District. Welcome, ladies.
So, Talise, can you tell us a bit about who you are, how you got here, and why you're a firefighter?
Sure. First of all, this is just an amazing profession to be in, and we're just a part of an excellent group. We really are a second family in the fire service. You hear that talk a lot about brotherhood and sisterhood, and we've been able to just enjoy that. I've been in the fire service I'm in my 22nd year. I started as a junior firefighter at Applegate Fire District in 98 at the age of 15. So I was a volunteer with my father, went through a junior program. Once I turned 18, I was able to be a full-fledged firefighter and go interior and do all of the firefighting activities that everyone does. And in 07, I was a student firefighter, went through a program that helped with my schooling. And then in 2009, I was hired full-time as a captain at Applegate, a shift captain, and have been in that position ever since.
So, Captain Aaron Elder, Shady Cove Fire,
Sure.
would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I started in the fire service when I was 16 as well. Similar story as Talise. Started as a junior firefighter, and it's kind of funny when I think back, how did I get started in this? And it's kind of what we did as high schoolers. The group of us that I hung out with, we hung out at the fire station and we became firefighters, and we were able to go on all of the calls. And I didn't know if I would really do it as a career, but I went away to college, and I was really interested in the medical aspect especially. And I went to Pacific University and got a degree in biology because it covered all the prerequisites for medical school. But then life changes and you figure out what path you're really going to go down. And I went back to school to become a paramedic. And during that time, I always volunteered at the fire station doing all aspects: firefighting, river rescue, wildland firefighting. And initially, I started as a paramedic on the ambulance. I worked in Grants Pass for American Medical Response. I still do that part-time. I've been with them for 22 years now. And then as a career firefighter in Shady Cove for the last 12 years. And then that's where I started as a volunteer in 1986. So really learning my hometown and getting to be there for the people of my hometown. Yeah. And working with my neighbors as well, neighboring fire departments, and being part of that whole team structure here in the valley. Yeah.
So what year was that? When did you get involved as young girls in high school? Was that in this?
Yeah. Yeah. So
when was it?
For me, it was in the 80s.
Okay, in the 80s,
Yeah.
and the 80s for you?
In the late 90s.
Late 90s.
I was a sophomore when I started.
Were there any female fighters when you guys were involved as young women?
So pretty rare. We had additional female firefighters that volunteered. So
Okay.
only, I would say, over the years, a handful that have came and gone, you know. So, yeah.
So what is it about firefighting or doing the medical part of it that keeps you going or provides you the satisfaction? Or is that where you get it?
I would say it comes down to several things. If you ask pretty much any volunteer firefighter or any firefighter, you're going to get a pretty common answer of the service. There's just a heart to serve, and there's just something special about feeling like you can make a difference and help in someone's situation that's challenging. For me, it was also about being a part of the group, the family, serving the community, and just for me, my dad was a volunteer, and I wanted to do something with him, and so that was really what.
So you had a role model.
I did, yeah. My dad was huge for
Great.
for me in that.
Great.
So how important is it to be part of a team?
Oh,
I would think that when you talk to firefighters about their background, a lot of us came from playing sports. You were part of a team, and then that continued into your adulthood.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like I played volleyball in college as well, and I was always part of that team. And so just a sense of teamwork, belonging, creating those connections. Yeah. You when you go on an emergency call with your partners, you really create a lot of connections because you see things and you have to do things that you wouldn't do with anybody else, and no one else really understands.
and they can be really critical situations where you rely on each other. There's got to be a lot of trust in each other and what you're doing, and the competency of the skill, and even your ability to relate and work well together.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of comparable to the police department in that they really rely on each other for their life.
Absolutely.
In some situations, so that camaraderie is there. So what are some of you mentioned some of the requirements for you to be in the paramedic side. What does it take, educationally, physically, in order to be a firefighter?
There is a fire science degree. The local community college has that.
Oh,
so
okay.
many, especially on the career path, will go both for the associates for a fire science program, as well as the paramedic.
Is that offered at
separate-
Rogue Community College?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
And there's also outside training. The true requirement isn't necessarily the degree, although that's highly encouraged to be a career in the fire service. Many volunteers leave it just at state certification levels. So in order to serve, you need to be, you go through courses and physical, we call them skill sheets, and different sign-offs. So you'll do task performances and prove your proficiency in fire service skills. And when that's done, then you'll receive a state certification for different levels of firefighting.
So there's no state exam then? There's just different sign-offs on different skills?
The courses will have written exams. They're both didactic and hands-on. So Erin and I both help instruct in these scenarios and have in the past. And so when we're working with college students or volunteers that are coming through, we call them fire academies. There's definitely a lot of textbook to it and science behind it, as well as the physical portion of what we do and showing proficiency in their ability to perform the skills.
Yeah. So, captains, can you give us a description of one of the most dangerous things you've done in your work? Or life-threatening, dangerous for you as I mean, you're really servants of the public. So could you tell us how dangerous it is? Or
I know Tylese was talking about an incident maybe you would like to describe.
A lot come to my mind, actually. Not that every day our life is on the line, but we definitely perform critical and dangerous scenarios. We're both from structural fire departments, but
Define that.
so there are fire departments like Oregon Department of Forestry, where their responsibility is wildfire and forestry. So those firefighters are well versed in what they do, but they will not be firefighters going interior in a structure fire. So we're trained on more all hazard as a structural fire, being associated with structural fire agencies. So we'll go on structure fires, car accidents, extrication, medicals. We do a lot of medical calls, high angle rescue, swift water rescue, some hazmat response, wildland fire, all of those are things that we would respond to. So the dangers associated with that come in all of those aspects. So I've been inside a structure fire when ceiling has come down on me, near the door, pulled ceiling, things like that. I've been on a wildland fire where our escape route was cut off and we were trapped by fire. We were in a safe location, but we're definitely in a precarious position. Performing extrication on vehicles with power lines hanging over you, the power pole has been, cut out, and so we are definitely in dangerous positions pretty consistently. And I'm sure you have very similar stories, Erin.
Yeah. You know, they talk about statistically some of the dangers are even just traveling to the scene. You don't think about, like when I first became a paramedic and I had to learn to drive an ambulance, code 3, you don't think about all those things when I'm in class learning how to do IVs, you know. And so when you actually have to drive on the road and go through intersections and things like that with your lights and sirens, some of those things, just getting to the call before you even get there to do any of your skills is a challenge, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Have you ever had a collision with a car?
statistically, people do have collisions with vehicles for sure. Motor vehicle crashes are some of the #1 things that happen as we're trying to get there.
Wow.
Locally, there hasn't been too many incidents over the years, for sure, though.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times you just clip something accidentally, like your mirror or things like that, as you're trying to get through tight
Right.
spots.
Right.
But when you think about how many ambulances, how many fire engines are on the roads, we get compared to like UPS trucks because there's so many throughout the nation, you know, when you're driving.
I was in Portland this weekend, and I was driving my daughter's car, and we had the windows up, the air conditioning on, and for some reason I put the window down, and I thought, you know, I think I hear something. I think I hear a siren, and so I put the windows down, and then we heard the siren, and eventually a ambulance came through the intersection, and I have to say everybody was really. But I was thinking, with the air conditioning on and with the windows up and people are listening to music, I wouldn't have heard that siren.
So with technology, things are becoming, they make different types of sirens and stuff. And so that might be helpful too, that you might experience somewhere. Some of the sirens will actually have what's called a growler, and it makes like a percussion vibration wave. And so then when they come up behind you, you can actually feel that.
it.
Yeah.
Really?
And
I've
so-
never felt that before.
That's, yeah.
So
Do we
as
have 'em
technology,
here in Ashland, or-
Yes.
the ambulances, some of them
Yeah,
have them.
yes,
for
they
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
to help people, because just like you're
Yes.
saying, you can't necessarily hear or see right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have ear protectors, right?
We do, yep. Especially when I ride in the engine, we have what's called David Clark headsets, because we need to be able to
David
hear. Yeah, it's just a brand.
Oh.
But you need to be able to hear the radio traffic from our dispatcher.
Right.
And then also the engine noise is really loud, and the siren. So it protects our ears, but then also we can talk to each other.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't at my agency. We just have different styles of vehicles, and so you might come across all of it.
Yeah. So, do you have any more female firefighters in Shady Cove?
So we've have a couple other volunteers.
Volunteers, but not firefighters.
Well, they're
paid
Right.
firefighters.
So yeah, we have so we're a combination department, and so at my agency and Tylee's agency as well, we only have 2 career firefighters on at a time. And so we heavily depend upon our volunteers.
Yes. Right.
And so when we get a bigger alarm, such as a fire or a car crash, sometimes even very critical medicals, our volunteers are paying attention and they come in and help. Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
so over the years in Shady Cove, we've had several female firefighters for sure.
Great.
And then we have some that are just EMTs that help out with medicals, that type of thing. So they may not be doing the full spectrum of what we do as a fire agency, but they're doing pieces of it. And so all of us together make up that team. Yeah.
So, are there Well, there's several how many fire districts are there in the Rogue Valley?
Ooh, good question.
You're not.
I'd have to
You're
count.
not. No, you're 4
She's
and
District
you're
4.
9.
I'm District 9.
So,
So there are
like 10?
there are districts in cities. Are you asking Josephine County, Jackson County, or both?
Well, let's combine the two because.
I'd have to do them. I'd have to
Okay,
count
well,
it up.
then just do Jackson. Just do Jackson. So I'm trying to get a
Prospect,
sense
Beat
of.
I guess we would need to know off the top of our head. There's quite a few fire
Prospect,
districts
Beat
for
Falls,
sure.
Shady
Okay,
Cove,
well, in
District
all
3.
of the fire districts in Jackson County, how many women are there?
There's about 7 career firefighters that
Okay.
do that for their career.
Okay.
And then I would say probably another 4 to 5 of volunteers that we're aware of.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's pretty good numbers.
In
At
Jackson and
10%. What do you think?
Not 10%.
No, below 10%. Okay. So,
So
do you
le-
gals get together and kind of support each other?
So you know,
Finally.
through this girls' fire camp,
Yes.
brought us together.
Good.
So we
Nice.
all know each other, and we end up at different classes together and different assignments, but never like. This was
Right.
the first time we were like, we need to
Finally,
do this.
after all these years,
Yeah.
we have finally like banded
found-
together
you found
and spent that
something that
time.
pulls you together.
And
Yeah.
really, it wasn't any one girl that coordinated this. It was
okay.
the
It was
group.
lots of people.
It was the group.
Right.
So we were talking before the show about the fact that firefighters literally have a shorter lifespan. In the sense that you have heart attacks and cancer. Would you explain to us why this is so really dangerous in another way? Because of your exposure to chemicals,
Sure.
stress.
When you think about anything that could happen in your community, from a big hazmat release,
Terrorists.
earthquake, wildland fires, all those things, we are the ones that get called to help mitigate that issue. And so we're going to be exposed to things, but we're going to use all of our personal protective equipment that we have available to us to help limit our exposure. And so when you think about those things, and even honestly, the chronic fatigue and sleep deprivation, it kind of sets you up physiologically to not be at your best all the time. And so then when you introduce outside hazards to that, then and chronic fatigue, that's where they say people are having more of the heart attacks because you're already so stressed, and then you're asking your body to function more than 100% for very physical activity. That's where we're having trouble with people being more of the heart attack scenarios. Also, we talked about caffeine. The caffeine is pretty prevalent in our industry, and just because of the fatigue and the sleep deprivation. You
Right.
know,
Is that because of the long shifts?
yeah.
Okay, what are your schedules?
We both work departments that work 48-hour. We call it 48-96 schedules. So we will work 48 hours at a time, minimum, usually, unless we've traded something out.
Wow.
So like I will go on duty tomorrow, and I will start at 7 o'clock in the morning. I won't be off duty until 2 o'clock Tuesday or 7 o'clock Tuesday morning.
But the movies show you have cots in there and you get to take
We do.
naps.
We do.
do.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have we have dorm rooms. So
Oh,
we
okay.
literally live,
Yeah.
and that's why we talk about this being like that
Family.
teamwork and camaraderie and family environment. A third of our life is spent living at the fire station. We live there 10 days out of every 30. And
What's it like to have to get up and be ready to go at 3 in the morning?
Yeah. So different people do different things. Like
Imagine.
I sleep with my socks on because I'm really slow at getting my socks on, and so then I can slide them right into my boots, right? And so you kind of get a routine of how do I wake up that fast and be functional, And so it is challenging. I mean, when you think about needing to do math at 2 in the morning, you try to figure out ways to help you get through that, to
Right.
be
Right.
functional from dead asleep to you're out
Wide
the door
awake.
running.
right, drug
Yeah.
calculations on a cardiac arrest and
Yeah.
how many milligrams of this drug am I going to
especially
use?
for
Or
the paramedics.
Yeah.
correct, yeah, because we do a lot of
Yeah.
So I see why the caffeine's important.
and health. I mean, we're finding too that, and And the fire service is really making a good transition and identifying that mental health is really important too. That's not always been an area that we've been really strong in taking care of ourselves. And I mean, clearly we see amazing things. And we also see challenging things, so.
Yeah.
Like if you see a very bad car accident and people kind of torn apart, you know, how do you recover from that?
So I would say, and this may sound kind of funny, but those types of calls don't happen every day that we go to work. They only happen occasionally, and sometimes you might get a run of them. We call them runs of threes. Usually if you have something like that, you're going to have 2 more things that are similar. And so those aren't your daily 911 calls. Our daily 911 calls are fairly routine for us. May not be for you or the person that it's happening to, but they're fairly routine for us. Occasionally we get the ones that stand out, and that's where we work together and talk about it so that we can kind of figure out how do we process this.
That was
Yeah.
my question. How do you
As a
process
group.
seeing a
As a
really
group.
bad scene?
As a group, and then maybe someone that you feel confident in talking about. And there's a lot of privacy things too that you can't talk to other people about. But as the people that were on the call, we can talk to each other and we support each other. We also have what's called critical incident stress debriefing, and that's where we'll have more of a somewhat formal debrief on the incident if it's fairly unusual.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Valley has a team that serves us, and we'll go to agencies in Jackson and Josephine County. So they're predefined, they're trained in that area, they know how to come in and help talk with us about what reactions and feelings are normal and how we handle that.
Yeah.
So do you have PTSD? Any firefighters?
Yeah, I would say that they're
I would
especially
think so.
just starting to identify that for firefighters
Yeah.
more. There's been more articles on it with PTSD.
Right.
Sleep disorders as well. Like when you sleep at the fire station, you're always sleeping with one eye open, one ear open. You know, people, because we're out in such rural areas,
Yeah.
people come and knock on our door. So we get walk-in medicals. And so then you're not even prepared for what you're going to do, you know, or
Right.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Walk-in medicals. That makes sense. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I read some statistics where I think this was for Ashland or I don't know, maybe statewide, that the higher percentage of the work that the fire departments do. I think we were talking about the ambulance service here in Ashland, and the fact that the fire department has more medical calls. I think maybe you mentioned that earlier, than you do actually firefighting.
That's true, yeah.
And that has increased over the years. So, Carol, here in town, does our fire department also manage, what's the ambulance versus the fire department?
Both, yeah.
So they have both of those, and you guys have the ambulance and fire department, firefighting.
We are just the fire department.
Okay,
And
you're-
so Mercy Flights comes and provides the
because you're
ambulance.
rural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tylise and I
Right.
were talking about that.
Yeah.
Right. So my district as well, we're just the fire department, and because Applegate fires in both Jackson and Josephine County, we'll have either Mercy Flights or AMR from the Josephine County side come out, depending on where we're at in the district.
So you don't do transport?
No, we
And
do
we
the
do
medical
transport.
care, so we
Yeah.
do have the ability, we carry the equipment to do IVs or 12 leads or things like that in the field, so we will get on scene and be able to provide that standard of care, but we will not transport to the hospital, the ambulance will.
With us being so far out, sometimes we'll be on scene anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes,
Right.
providing
Wow.
care for those patients before the ambulance arrives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
And-
you're life and death. I mean,
We can be.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times with our rural locations, we activate Mercy Flights helicopter, Mercy Flights 105, to come and take our critical patients as well. Yeah.
what's the closest hospitals for you guys?
So Providence in my area technically would be the closest.
Okay.
And then Rogue Regency, if I get it right,
Regency.
yeah, is about 5
Regional.
minutes further, or further,
Yeah.
5 miles further.
Okay.
Yeah, and in my district, it might be Three Rivers,
In
Leosant
Grants
in Grants Pass, depending on what. My fire district is 181 square miles, so there's a lot of
Oh, wow.
land and territory to cover.
So do you determine whether or not an ambulance comes, a helicopter, or where they go?
To some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you do you ask people to be taken to Portland?
We don't
If it's
directly.
serious? You don't do that?
We don't set that up. The ambulance agencies working with the hospitals would set up a flight to Portland.
I see, okay.
Right. But we will, when you call 911, both the fire department and the ambulance are sent. We're all sent at the same time.
Okay.
So if an ambulance isn't needed, we'll cancel the ambulance. If they are, they'll continue. If it's severe and we feel like the helicopter is necessary, we will activate the helicopter and ask for their response. And they can even be activated after the ambulance has arrived on scene. But we do get decision making in that sense.
Now, do you all charge for your service, medical service?
So in the fire districts, how we're funded is through property taxes. And so when people pay their property taxes, that's how they're charged for our services.
Okay, so I guess the transporting is where the charge comes. Because I know Ashland does charge for transport.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't charge for that because you're just called and you're there.
Right. There are some things that a fire agency may choose to charge for if it's an extended extrication, things like that go above and beyond. But it's pretty much when people pay their property taxes is how we're funded.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a silly question.
Well, we're at the end. Why don't you hold that for the next show, Carol?
I have a silly question.
So, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you for
And
having
you're
me.
going to be on the second show, so we'll see you in a little bit. So that's all the time that we have for part one. And I'd like to...
I would like to thank,
No, we're not there yet, Carol.
okay,
Okay. Well, we are going to have to wing this, Carol, because the teleprompter is
I
wacko.
see that. So I would like to thank the volunteers.
Yes.
We have some great volunteers. Wanda, who's the director, John on graphics, David N, audio and camera, Gary, our floor manager. Thank you all. JC or Joe and Nora. Okay, thank you all. We
Great.
really appreciate it. This couldn't happen without you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'd like to emphasize that's an all volunteer crew. Everything down here is volunteer. And so part two, we're going to actually have some gals from the camp. We're going to focus on the camp activity. And Girl Talk is a Rogue Valley television program, Channel 15 with Ashland HomeNet or Channel 182 with Spectrum. And we run at 3 o'clock on Saturdays and 6:30 on Thursday evenings, or on demand online at roguevalleytv.sou.edu. Click on Public Access at the top of the page and then search for Girl Talk. Girl Talk can also be heard at noon on Sundays on KSKQ Community Radio at 89.5 FM in Ashland and 94.1 in Medford. We hope that you learned something new today and that you will join us again and join us for part two. So bye for now.
Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? Up before dawn, the coffee is gone. The kids are still sleeping, but not for long. Cook, she's a chauffeur, she's a worker bee. First in the door and last to leave. Girl talk, girl talk. What's better than girl talk? A chat with the ladies about their day, the ups and downs along the way. She's a cook, she's a chauffeur, she's a worker bee.